The air inside the Mayrin control room of the Large Hadron Collider, LHC, is rarely thick with excitement. Usually, it is thick with the hum of high-end servers, the smell of recycled air, and the quiet, caffeinated intensity of physicists staring at histograms. For decades, the story of CERN has been one of confirmation. We predicted the Higgs boson. We found it. We predicted the top quark. We found it. The standard model, the user manual for the universe, seemed invincible until the 7 Sigma anomaly appeared. To understand why this signal has sent a shockwave through the scientific community, you first have to understand the staggering weight of the term 7 Sigma. In the world of particle physics, we don't deal in certainties. We deal in the probability of being wrong. When a scientist claims a discovery at 5 sigma, they're saying there is only a 1 in 3.5 million chance that the data is a fluke. It is the gold standard for truth. But a 7 sigma result? That is a different beast entirely. We are talking about a 1 in 390 billion chance of an error. In practical terms, it is a statistical impossibility for this signal to be a mistake. It is the universe shouting a message at us in a language we thought we had mastered, yet suddenly cannot translate. It is a signal that, according to every law of physics we have written since the 1970s, simply should not exist. The beauty quark's defiance. The anomaly began within the LHCb experiment, a specific detector designed to study the beauty quark, or B quark. In the standard model, there is a principle known as Lepton Flavor Universality. It's a fancy way of saying that the universe is supposed to be blind to the difference between different types of leptons, such as electrons and muons, when they interact through the weak force. Imagine you have a vending machine that accepts both quarters and nickels. If the machine is working correctly, it shouldn't matter which coin you drop in. The reaction, the delivery of the snack, should be identical. For 40 years, our vending machine universe worked perfectly, but the 7 sigma signal showed that the beauty quark is choosing favorites. It is decaying into electrons significantly more often than into muons. It's as if the vending machine suddenly decided it only likes nickels, and it's throwing the quarters back in our faces. This sounds like a minor technicality, a tiny hiccup in a subatomic decay chain. But for a physicist, this is the equivalent of watching a ball fall upward or seeing water freeze in a furnace. It means the standard model isn't just slightly off. It means the foundation is cracked. Getty, images, the ghost in the machine. When the data first hit the servers, the initial reaction wasn't a celebration. It was a frantic search for a glitch. Physicists spent months checking the calibration of the superconducting magnets. They looked for noise in the liquid argon calorimeters. They assumed that a cable was loose or that a bird had dropped a piece of bread into an outdoor substation, an event that actually happened in 2009. But the more they cleaned the data, the stronger the signal became. It climbed from 3 sigma to 5 sigma, and finally crossed the threshold into the 7 sigma territory. This is where the scary part begins. When a signal this strong defies the standard model, it implies the existence of a new force of nature. We currently only know of 4: gravity, electromagnetism, and the strong and weak nuclear forces. A 5th force would mean that there is an entire dark sector of reality that has been operating right under our noses, invisible to our instruments. until we pushed the LHC to its absolute limit. Why reality feels scripted, there is a growing hushed conversation in the halls of CERN that this 7 sigma result isn't just a new particle. Some theorists are calling it a coding error. If you think of the universe as a massive, complex simulation, the laws of physics are the source code. For billions of years, that code has run without a visible bug. But now, by smashing particles together at 13.6 tera-electron volts, 13.6 tera-electron volts, we are effectively stress testing the hardware. The 7 sigma signal is what happens when you push a processor too hard and the textures start to tear. It is a glitch that suggests the universe is not a continuous, infinite reality, but a programmed environment with specific limiters. In the standard model, everything is supposed to be symmetrical. The beauty quark decay was the ultimate test of that symmetry. By failing that test, the universe has revealed a seam, the end of the beginning. As we look at the histograms on the control room monitors, the implications are chilling. If Lepton Flavor Universality is dead, then we have to rethink everything. Mass, we don't truly understand where it comes from. Dark matter, it might not be a thing, but a side effect of this fifth force, existence. If the rules can change at high energies, then reality itself is metastable. It is not a solid, eternal foundation. It is a temporary state. The signal is a warning. We have spent centuries looking at the user interface of the universe, the stars, the planets, the light. But CERN has just peered into the terminal and found a line of code that doesn't make sense. The 7 sigma result tells us that the script is breaking. We are no longer just observers of the laws of physics. We are witnesses to their collapse. And as we move into Chapter 2, we have to ask the most terrifying question of all. If the standard model is a lie, what is actually holding your atoms together right now? The signal shouldn't exist. And yet, there it is, glowing on the screen, a 7 sigma heartbeat in a universe we thought was dead. For over half a century, the standard model of particle physics has been the crown jewel of human achievement. It is, for all intents and purposes, the periodic table on steroids. It categorized the quarks that build our protons, the leptons that form our electricity, and the bosons that carry the very forces of nature. It was so precise that it could predict the magnetic moment of an electron to 10 decimal places. We called it the theory of almost everything. But in the wake of the 7 sigma anomaly at CERN, that almost has grown into a cavernous, terrifying void. We are forced to confront a reality that physicists have whispered about in private, but avoided in public. The standard model is not a blueprint of the universe. It is a mask, and that mask is beginning to slip. The great deception of symmetry. At the heart of the standard model lies the concept of symmetry. Physicists love symmetry because it implies a sense of order and fairness in the cosmos. We believe that, at the moment of the Big Bang, the universe was perfectly symmetrical. Every particle had an equal partner. Every force was balanced. However, the 7 sigma result from the LHCb experiment regarding the beauty quark, which we discussed in Chapter 1, proves that at the most fundamental level, the universe is asymmetric. The vending machine of reality is rigged. If the standard model says that A must always equal B, and CERN has proven that A actually equals C, then the entire mathematical structure we've used to explain life, death, and the stars is fundamentally fraudulent. It means we have been living in a local bubble of physics that we mistook for the universal truth. We are like deep-sea fish who believe the entire world is made of high-pressure salt water, unaware that a few miles up there is air, fire, and a vacuum. The Higgs boson, the God that failed to understand why the lie is so dangerous. We have to look back at the 2012 discovery of the Higgs boson. It was hailed as the final piece of the puzzle. The Higgs field is what gives particles mass. Without it, atoms could not form, and you would be a collection of massless particles zipping through space at the speed of light. But there is a problem that physicists call the hierarchy problem. According to the Standard Model, the Higgs boson should be trillions of times heavier than it actually is. To keep the Higgs as light as it is, the universe's constants must be fine-tuned to a degree that is mathematically absurd. It's like trying to balance a needle on its tip in the middle of a hurricane for 13.8 billion years. The Standard Model has no explanation for this. It simply says, that's just how it is. But with the new 7 sigma data, we realize that the Higgs boson isn't the God particle. It's a patch. It's a temporary fix in a broken system. If the Higgs field is unstable, which the new data suggest it might be, then the very property of mass is a temporary illusion. The secret fifth force. If the Standard Model is a lie, what replaces it? The 7 sigma signal points towards something the textbook said was impossible. The leptoquark. In the Standard Model, quarks, which make up nuclei, and leptons, like electrons, are strictly separated. They don't mix. They play by different rules. A leptoquark is a theoretical hybrid particle that bridges this gap. If leptoquarks exist, it means there is a fifth force of nature that we have never seen. This force doesn't care about our standard rules. It operates in the shadows, influencing the decay of matter in ways that suggest the universe has a hidden agenda. This fifth force is the ghost in the code. It is the reason why the beauty quark is behaving strangely. And if this force exists, it doesn't just change physics, it changes the fate of the universe. The Standard Model predicted a heat death for our cosmos, a slow fading out over trillions of years. But this fifth force introduces the possibility of a phase transition. Imagine the universe is like water. The Standard Model describes the properties of liquid water perfectly. But if the fifth force acts as a sudden drop in temperature, the water of our reality could suddenly turn to ice. In an instant, the laws of physics would change, and everything made of liquid particles, including you, your home, and the sun, would be shattered by the new geometry of reality. Why scientists are silent. You might wonder why this isn't on every news channel. Why aren't we screaming from the rooftops that the foundation of reality is a lie? The answer is scientific inertia. Thousands of careers, billions of dollars in grants, and entire reputations are built on the Standard Model being right. To admit it is a lie is to admit that we have spent 50 years polishing a map of a territory that doesn't exist. Furthermore, the implications are scary in the truest sense of the word. If the Standard Model is a lie, then the universe is not fine-tuned for life. We are an accident occurring in a glitch. We are living in a temporary error in a larger, much more terrifying system that we do not understand. Image. a crumbling marble statue of a famous physicist, symbolizing the collapse of established theory. The script is being rewritten. As the data continues to pour in from the LHC's latest run at record-breaking energies, the lie is becoming impossible to ignore. We are seeing flashes of particles that shouldn't be there, particles that suggest the vacuum of space is not empty, but filled with a dark fluid that the standard model ignored. We have reached the end of the map. The standard model was a beautiful, elegant story we told ourselves to feel safe in the dark. It told us that the universe was logical, that it followed a set of rules we could put on a t-shirt. But the 7 Sigma result has burned that t-shirt. It has shown us that the rules were just a script. And as we move into Chapter 3, we will explore the most haunting consequence of this discovery. If the laws of physics are breaking, it's because the texture of our reality is thinning. We aren't just looking at new particles. We are looking at the seams of the simulation itself. The standard model is a lie. The question is, what is the truth trying to hide? In the first 2 chapters, we explored the glitch in the data and the collapse of our most trusted scientific models. But now, we must move from the abstract world of mathematics into the tangible world of existence. If the 7 Sigma result proves that the laws of physics are not absolute, it implies something far more unsettling. Reality has a physical limit. Like a piece of fabric stretched too thin, or a digital world where the resolution begins to drop as you reach the edge of the map, the texture of our universe is starting to show signs of wear. In physics, we often treat space-time as a smooth, continuous stage upon which the drama of the universe unfolds. But the newest data suggests that space-time is not a smooth stage at all. It is a lattice, a structure that can be stressed, warped, and ultimately torn. The resolution of the cosmos. To understand what it means for the texture of reality to thin, we have to look at the Planck Scale. This is the ultimate pixel size of our universe. According to current theory, you cannot divide space any smaller than 1.6 times 10 to the power of minus 35 meters. This is the resolution of our reality. For billions of years, the universe has operated well within these limits. But as we use the Large Hadron Collider to concentrate massive amounts of energy into smaller and smaller points, we are essentially zooming in on the pixels of the universe. The 7 Sigma anomaly is the first sign of aliasing, a digital distortion that occurs when the system can no longer render the complexity of the interaction. When the texture thins, we begin to see things that shouldn't be possible. We see particles that appear to be in 2 places at once, not just at the quantum level, but at scales that are starting to bleed into our macro reality. We see temporal smearing, where the cause and effect of a particle collision don't quite align. It's as if the universe's frame rate is dropping because the underlying processor cannot handle the energy levels we are reaching. The false vacuum, the ultimate thinning. The most terrifying manifestation of this thinning texture is a concept known as false vacuum decay. Think of the universe as a field of snow on a mountain. For billions of years, we have lived in a valley, believing we are on solid ground. But the 7 Sigma result suggests that our valley is actually a ledge halfway up the mountain. We are in a false vacuum, a state of reality that looks stable but is actually highly precarious. If the texture of reality thins enough, if we poke a hole in the field through high-energy collisions, or if a natural quantum fluctuation occurs, we could trigger a phase transition. This is the bubble of doom. A bubble of true vacuum would expand at the speed of light, incinerating everything in its path. Inside this bubble, the laws of physics are different. Atoms cannot hold together. Light does not travel. The thinning texture CERN is witnessing might be the first sign that our ledge on the mountain is crumbling. We are seeing cracks in the stability of the Higgs field, the very field that keeps the universe from sliding down into the true vacuum. If the field thins too much, the texture snaps, and reality, as we know it, simply ceases. The holographic blur. There is another theory gaining traction among the silent scientists at CERN, the holographic principle. This theory suggests that our three-dimensional universe is actually a projection of two-dimensional information stored at the edge of the cosmos. If this is true, then matter is just an illusion created by the projection. When we talk about the texture thinning, we are talking about a loss of data. Have you ever noticed how a high-definition video looks when the internet connection slows down? The edges get blurry, the colors bleed. This is exactly what we are seeing in the subatomic bleed of the beauty quark. The projection is losing its focus. The 7 sigma anomaly isn't a discovery of a new particle. It's a discovery of pixelation. The universe is struggling to maintain the illusion of solid matter at the energy levels we are currently exploring. The ghost anomalies, as the texture thins, we aren't just seeing it in the machines, we are seeing it in the ghost anomalies being reported across various observatories. The Hubble tension. The universe is expanding at different speeds depending on where you look. The fabric is stretching unevenly. The cold spot, a massive area in the cosmic microwave background that is inexplicably empty. Some believe this is a bruise where our universe bumped into another, thinning the texture between realities. Quantum tunneling in biology. We are finding that enzymes and even DNA use quantum shortcuts, literally passing through the texture of reality, because it is thin enough for subatomic particles to bypass the walls of physics. Why, this is terrifying. The reason this is scary isn't just because the universe might end. It's because it suggests that reality is a finite resource. We grew up believing the universe was an infinite self-sustaining machine. But a thinning texture implies that the universe has a battery life or a data cap. Every time a star burns, every time a black hole evaporates, and every time we smash particles together at CERN, we are consuming the stability of the texture. We are witnesses to the heat death, not of energy, but of complexity. The universe is becoming less solid. The rules are becoming more flexible because the structure that holds them in place is wearing out. The edge of the void. As we conclude Chapter 3, the picture is becoming clear. The 7 sigma result was the warning shot. The standard model was the blindfold. And the thinning texture is the reality we now face. We are living on a soap bubble. It is beautiful, iridescent, and vast. But the film is getting thinner. In Chapter 4, we will look at the ultimate implication of this thinning, the simulation's computing limit. If the texture is thinning, is it because the programmer has run out of memory? Are we hitting the buffer overflow of existence? The signal from CERN isn't just a number. It's the sound of the fabric of the universe beginning to tear. And once a tear starts, it rarely stays small. As we peel back the layers of the 7 Sigma anomaly, we move beyond the realm of broken physics and into the most controversial territory of modern science, the simulation hypothesis. If the universe is not a chaotic accident of nature, but a programmed construct, then every law of physics is simply a line of code. But every program, no matter how advanced, has a ceiling. Every processor has a clock speed. Every database has a memory limit. In Chapter 4, we must ask the question that keeps theorists awake at night. Is the 7 Sigma result at CERN a sign that we have finally hit the computing limit of our reality? The resolution of the world. In computer science, optimization is everything. When a developer builds a massive open-world game, they don't render every leaf on every tree across the entire map simultaneously. They use foveated rendering. Only the objects the player is looking at are rendered in high detail. Everything else exists as a low-resolution approximation, or a mathematical probability. This sounds eerily similar to quantum mechanics. In our universe, a particle doesn't take a definitive shape or position until it is observed or interacts with another system. Before that, it exists as a wave function, a mathematical shortcut. Physicists have long wondered why the universe would work this way. If you view the universe as a simulation, the answer is obvious: computational efficiency. The universe only calculates the position of an atom when it absolutely has to. This saves an unfathomable amount of processing power. However, what happens when the inhabitants of that simulation, us, start building machines like the Large Hadron Collider? What happens when we force this system to calculate billions of high-energy collisions per second at the subatomic level? We are essentially overclocking the hardware of reality. By pushing the LHC to its limits, we are demanding that the universe render the most complex data points possible, all at once. The 7 Sigma signal is the first sign of latency. It is the stutter in the frame rate of existence, the floating point error of physics. In digital computing, a floating point error occurs when a number is too large or too precise for the system's memory to handle. The computer rounds the number, leading to a tiny discrepancy that, over time, can crash the entire program. The beauty quark anomaly, the core of the 7 Sigma result, is the physical equivalent of a floating point error. The standard model predicted a perfect symmetry between electrons and muons. The program of the universe was supposed to treat them with equal processing weight. But the data shows a 25% discrepancy. This isn't just a new particle. This is a rounding error. At the extreme energy densities inside the LHC, the hardware of the universe is struggling to maintain the precision of its own laws. We are seeing a leak in the source code. The 7 Sigma signal is the universe saying, I can't calculate this accurately anymore. Memory leaks and cosmic inflation. If the universe is a simulation, then space-time itself is the storage medium. But we know that the universe is expanding, and that expansion is accelerating. This is known as cosmic inflation. For years, we have attributed this to dark energy, a mysterious force we cannot see or measure. But in the context of a computing limit, dark energy looks like a memory leak. A memory leak occurs when a program fails to release discarded memory causing the system to bloat and eventually slow down. As the simulation of our universe continues to run, it creates more and more empty space-time that must be managed. The 7 sigma result at CERN might be the moment the system began to prioritize its core functions over its peripheral ones. To keep the simulation running, the laws of physics are being compressed. We are seeing the loss of data in subatomic decays because the system is redirecting its computational budget to keep the expansion of space-time from crashing the entire server. The observer stress test. There is a terrifying concept in computing called a denial of service, DOS, attack. This happens when a system is flooded with so many requests for information that it simply shuts down. By building telescopes like James Webb and colliders like the LHC, humanity is performing a scientific DOS on reality. We are asking for more resolution than the system was designed to provide to a biological observer. When we look at the 7 sigma data, we aren't seeing the truth of nature. We are seeing the stress test results. Scientists are silent about this because the implication is that our quest for knowledge might actually be destabilizing our environment. If we push the resolution of our experiments too far, do we risk a system crash? Does the programmer, whether that be a higher intelligence, a future civilization, or a natural process, have an automated reset button for simulations that become too self-aware of their own code? The patch theory. Some theorists suggest that the 7 sigma signal isn't a glitch, but a patch. In software development, when a bug is discovered, the developers release a patch to fix the code. However, patches often introduce new strange behaviors that weren't there before. The 7 sigma anomaly appeared after the LHC was upgraded to its Run 3 energy levels. It is possible that as we reach these new energies, we triggered a change in the local laws of physics. The simulation detected that its previous laws, the standard model, were being violated by our experiments, and it automatically updated the physics engine to compensate. This would explain why the scientists are silent. They are seeing the rules of the game change in real time. What worked in 1990 doesn't work in 2026. The universe is no longer a static, eternal truth. It is a dynamic, evolving program, reaching the buffer limit. As we conclude Chapter 4, The Mystery of the Beauty, Quark takes on a new digital chillingness. We aren't just looking at particles, we are looking at bits. The 7 sigma result is the buffer overflow of the cosmos. It tells us that we have reached the end of the safety zone. We are now operating in the overclocked region of reality, where the laws of physics are fluid, unstable, and prone to error. In Chapter 5, we will go behind the scenes of the world's most powerful laboratory to discuss the silent data. What are the things CERN has seen that they haven't told the public? If the simulation is hitting its limit, what does the crash log look like? And more importantly, if the program is about to end, what happens to the data inside? What happens to us? The computing limit isn't a theory anymore. It's a 7 sigma reality. And the system is starting to lag. In the world of high-energy physics, a discovery isn't official until it has been peer-reviewed, replicated, and published in a journal like Nature or Physical Review Letters. This process is designed to ensure accuracy, but it also acts as a filter. In the case of the 7 sigma anomaly at CERN, What has been released to the public is only the tip of a very dark, very complex iceberg. Beyond the official histograms and the sanitized press releases lies a repository of what researchers call orphan data, anomalies that are too consistent to be noise, but too terrifying to be explained by current science. This is the silent data. It represents the moments when the detectors at CERN saw something that shouldn't exist, not just for a fraction of a second, but as a persistent, haunting presence in the machine. The ghost tracks in the vacuum. The Large Hadron Collider is essentially a 27-kilometer vacuum. Every air molecule is pumped out to ensure that the proton beams only collide with each other. Yet, internal logs from the ATLAS and CMS detectors have repeatedly flagged what are known as ghost tracks. These are trajectories of particles that appear out of nowhere. They do not originate from the primary collision point, the vertex, and they do not correspond to any known decay chain. In the official reports, these are often dismissed as instrumental artifacts or cosmic ray background, but silent data logs suggest these tracks are organized. They follow geometric patterns that suggest matter is being injected into our reality from a source outside the vacuum pipe. If the 7 sigma result is the glitch in the code, these ghost tracks are the data leak from a neighboring system. Some rogue theorists within CERN believe these tracks are evidence of brain leakage, particles from a parallel dimension that are bleeding into our world because the energy levels of the LHC have weakened the membrane between universes. The midnight anomalies, the living. Machine one of the most guarded secrets at CERN is the relationship between the machine and the environment. It is well known that the LHC is so sensitive that it can detect the ground tides caused by the moon's gravity or the vibrations of a high-speed train in nearby Geneva. However, there is a set of data known as the midnight anomalies. During the dead of night, when the local environment is silent, the detectors have recorded pulses that resemble a heartbeat. These pulses aren't random. They follow a mathematical sequence known as the Fibonacci progression. How can a particle accelerator, a cold assembly of magnets and sensors, produce a biological-sounding sequence? The official explanation is that it's a feedback loop in the cryogenic cooling system, but the silent data tells a different story. The sequence only appears when the 7 sigma beauty quark anomaly is at its peak. It's as if the program we discussed in Chapter 4 is attempting to communicate, or as if the machine itself has become a sensory organ for a form of intelligence that exists within the fields of physics themselves. The missing 40 terabytes. Every second the LHC is running, it generates a petabyte of data, more than the entire internet can handle. To manage this, CERN uses a trigger system that instantly deletes 99% of the data, keeping only the interesting collisions. In late 2025, a rumor circulated through the physics community about a trigger failure that wasn't a failure at all. For a period of 14 minutes, the system bypassed its filters and recorded everything. This raw, unfiltered data, roughly 40 terabytes of it, was reportedly moved to a Tier 0 secure server and never seen again. Whistleblowers suggest that this data contained the unraveling of the vacuum itself. It reportedly showed particles moving backward in time, retrocausality, and vortex points, where the fundamental constants of physics like the speed of light, easy, and the gravitational constant $G fluctuated wildly. If this data were made public, it wouldn't just break the standard model. It would suggest that the universe is geographically inconsistent. It would mean that truth in Geneva might not be truth in New York. The silence of the institutional guard. Why would CERN hide this? It isn't necessarily a men in black conspiracy. It is a crisis of institutional survival. If the public, and more importantly, the governments that fund the multi-billion-dollar future circular collider, were to find out that the laws of physics are crumbling, the reaction would be panic, not curiosity. Science relies on the predictability of nature. If nature is no longer predictable, if the texture is thinning, as we discussed in Chapter 3, then science as a profession becomes obsolete. The silent data is kept silent because it points to an inconvenient reality. We are no longer in control of our experiments. We are like children playing with a light switch, unaware that the house is on fire. By publishing only the 7 sigma result, CERN gives the world a mystery to solve. By hiding the midnight anomalies and the ghost tracks, they hide the fact that the mystery has already been solved, and the answer is game over. The shadow of the observer. The most haunting piece of silent data involves the researchers themselves. There are documented but unpublished reports of cognitive interference among the shift leaders in the control room. During periods of high-energy 7 sigma events, personnel have reported shared hallucinations, visions of a sky that isn't our sky, or the sensation of being watched by something vast and cold. In quantum physics, the observer effect states that the act of looking changes the result. The silent data suggests that this effect works both ways. As we look into the heart of the 7 sigma anomaly, the anomaly is looking back into us. The thinning of reality isn't just happening in the collider, it's happening in the minds of the people operating it. The final leak. As we close this chapter, we have to realize that the 7 sigma announcement was a distraction. It was a way to give the public a bone to chew on, while the scientific community grapples with the silent data that suggests our reality is failing. The data they didn't publish tells us that the script isn't just breaking, it's being rewritten by an external hand. The ghost tracks are the footprints of the new architects. The midnight anomalies are the sound of the system rebooting. In our final chapter, Chapter 6, the final transition, we will look at what happens when the silent data becomes the only data. What happens when the glitch becomes the new rule. We are approaching the end of the universe as we know it, and the scientists are silent because there is nothing left to say. The 7 sigma result was the crack in the dam. The silent data was the sound of the structure groaning. Now we arrive at the inevitable conclusion of our journey through the breaking of reality. We have reached the final transition. In physics, a phase transition is what happens when a system changes its fundamental state, like water turning to steam or iron, losing its magnetism at high temperatures. But what CERN has uncovered isn't a transition of matter within the universe. It is a transition of the universe itself. We are moving from the old physics of the standard model into a new physics, where the rules are not only different, but potentially hostile to biological life. The death of the constant. For the entirety of human history, we have relied on constants. The speed of light, CE, is 299,792,458 meters per second. The charge of an electron is fixed. These are the hard-coded values that allow atoms to stay bonded and stars to burn. However, the new physics emerging from this 7 sigma anomaly suggests that these constants are actually variables. They were never fixed. They were merely held in place by a symmetry that is now dissolving. If the speed of light shifts by even 1%, the electromagnetic bonds holding your DNA together would unravel instantly. The final transition begins with the fluctuation of the vacuum. We are seeing the first signs that the universal constants are drifting. This is why the beauty quark is behaving strangely. It is reacting to a new physics that is slowly bleeding into our sector of space. We are transitioning from a universe of certainty to a universe of flux, the vacuum metastability event. The most scientifically grounded fear regarding this transition is vacuum decay. As discussed in Chapter 3, our universe exists in a false vacuum. It is a state of temporary stability. Think of our current physics as a beautiful, intricate sandcastle built on a beach at low tide. For 13.8 billion years, the tide has been out. We have built civilizations, formulated calculus, and mapped the stars, all under the assumption that the sand is a permanent foundation. But the 7 sigma signal is the first wave of the incoming tide hitting the base of the castle. When the final transition occurs, a bubble of true vacuum will nucleate. Inside this bubble, the Higgs field has a different value. This isn't just a change. It is a total reset. In the new physics, the particles we know, protons, neutrons, electrons, cannot exist. They are deleted and replaced by new, exotic forms of energy that the standard model never predicted. The overclocked reality? A new intelligence? If we return to the simulation hypothesis from Chapter 4, the final transition looks less like an accident and more like an upgrade. In computing, when a system becomes too bloated or inefficient, the developers perform a hard reset or migrate the data to a new architecture. The new physics might be a more efficient way for the universe to process information. The 7 sigma glitch was the warning that the old architecture was reaching its limit. There is a radical theory among the fringe elements at CERN that the new physics will not be dead matter, but computational matter. The transition might be moving the universe from a dumb physical state into a smart state, where space-time itself can process information. If this is true, the final transition isn't the end of existence. It is the birth of a cosmic mind. We are the legacy data being purged to make room for a new, higher dimensional operating system, preparing for the impossible. How do you prepare for a transition that rewrites the laws of gravity and electromagnetism? The short answer is, you don't. You cannot build a bunker out of atoms to protect yourself from a change in the nature of atoms. However, preparation in the scientific sense is happening in the silent rooms of CERN and other deep core laboratories like Snow Lab. Scientists are looking for anchor points, regions of space-time or specific quantum states that might be invariant, unchanging during the transition. There is an effort to digitize the fundamental signatures of our reality. If we cannot survive the transition physically, can we upload the mathematical essence of our physics into the quantum foam, hoping it persists as legacy code in the new physics? This sounds like science fiction, but when you are facing a 7 sigma proof that reality is breaking, science fiction becomes the only viable survival guide. The silent watchers. As the transition nears, the midnight anomalies from Chapter 5 are becoming more frequent. The heartbeat of the machine is getting louder. The ghost tracks are becoming more defined. There is a sense among the elite researchers that we are not just witnessing a natural phenomenon. We are being watched. If the universe is transitioning to a new physics, the architects of that physics would logically be observing the collapse of the old one. The silence of scientists isn't just about avoiding panic, it's about reverence. They realize they are no longer the masters of nature. They are just passengers on a ship that is changing its shape while at sea, the final frame. The 7 sigma result was never just about a beauty quark. It was the check engine light of the cosmos. Chapter 1 showed us the signal. Chapter 2 revealed the lie. Chapter 3 identified the thinning texture. Chapter 4 explained the computing limit. Chapter 5 exposed the hidden data. Chapter 6 brings us to the edge. As we approach the final transition, the old physics will begin to flicker. You might see it in the stars first, a slight shift in the color of the sun, a change in the way gravity feels on a Tuesday afternoon. These are not hallucinations. They are the new physics asserting itself. Reality is breaking. But as any physicist will tell you, a break is just the beginning of a new structure. We are the last generation of the Standard Model, the final witnesses to an era of symmetry and logic. As the lights dim on the universe we thought we knew, we must prepare to open our eyes to the one that has been waiting behind the curtain.